everybody. Welcome to day one of EU Contenders Trials Season 3. I'm your host, Gio. I'm joined today by my analysts, Nari and Lafon. How are you guys doing?
Doing very well. It's gonna be a great desk here.
I'm pretty excited. So today we are going to be starting off with our 8th seed team, Osh-Tekk Warriors, who are coming up from Open Division, going against our first seed team, British Hurricane, who have come down from Contenders. So, British Hurricane, they were the champions of Season 1. They dominated Fusion University in the Atlantic Showdown, and yet come Season 2, things have kind of started. They didn't go so well for them, so they want to make a point to be getting back to their number 1 spot. In Season 2, they made a bit of a coaching switch up. They got rid of their old head coach. They brought in a new coach who is now going to be starting his first full season with the team. Do we think this is going to have a significant enough effect to make things start to look up for them?
I think one of the interesting things is you kind of highlighted it, right? Their current head coach came in later through the season here in Season 2. Beginning of Season 3 is probably where we're going to start seeing some of the work that he's done pay off. It's really, really tough to come in midway through and implement a new system if that is in fact what happens. So I kind of expect to see, a more coordinated, more ready, if you will, team from here for British Hurricane.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And also, bearing in mind that this new coach that they've brought in, they've told us that he's one of these guys that's quick to start with VOD reviews. Like, cool, guys, we did a match. We're going to do a review now. We're going to talk about this. We're going to fix your problems. So as much as he came in halfway and that could create a little bit of a just disjointed feeling for the team, he's hands-on and he's in it and he's doing what he can to uplift his team. So, yeah, I think that they're going to make it work. I think it's probably going to be huge for them to have made a step up in their coach, regardless of how disjointed it may have been.
Now, Osh-Tekk Warriors, the other team they're going against, they've kind of come into this competition as sort of the dark horse. Like, no one really knew who they were. They're the first team, to my knowledge, to represent the Middle East on this kind of level in Overwatch. They won this massive competition in Saudi Arabia. They've proven themselves in the Open Division playoffs. But do they have what it takes to take on the number 1 seed team, British Hurricane? Nari, what do you think?
Well, I mean, you said it, Dark Horse came out of nowhere. They came first in the Saudi regional tournament, which had a prize pool of $160,000 for EU. That's 138,000 euros. That is huge. They were 15th seed in OD, climbed their way up tooth and nail to get to playoffs. And I mean, here they are. Three players from Hurricanes are splitting their practices and so, but Osh-Tekk, they're in it. Every prac, every VOD review, they're there. They're doing their thing. I think having shown us that they can come from a bottom seed and claw their way up. Yes, they're coming up against a fantastically huge, well-known, really organized team, but I don't know. Hey, I'm expecting big things. The dark horse rises.
Well, one player whose name came up when we spoke to both teams, in fact, was Kib of the British Hurricane. Do you guys think we should be keeping an eye on him? Who else do you think maybe will come up, especially on the side of Osh-Tekk?
I mean, interestingly here is that we're in a really strange spot in a sort of the meta composition where people have needed to switch quite a bit. So the fact that Kib came up is not surprising. He is being described as extremely flexible. So that is one thing that will really come to the forefront, I think, perhaps moving forward throughout this season, as it is really, really required to have, that hero or that player rather who can play, whatever you need him to. So that, so again, that is what Kib has been able to do. I want to see that too. So on Osh-Tekk's side, we don't know that much about them, but realistically, the question is, can they do the same thing? Can they have that player who steps up and is reliable in terms of being able to bring to the forefront all those required switches if necessary?
That being said, there are 2 players that we've been told we should look out for, and upon, watching some of their older VODs and stuff, I can see why. So Majed, their flex support player, he's one of those guys, he gets his ultimate, he blows it. Because he knows he can build it up as fast as possible. He's trying to provide as much utility as possible for his team by using his ultimates as quickly as possible and then building them up as quickly as possible. On the other hand, we've got Kazar plays, their flex DPS, who apparently does insane things. Flex being the operative word there, so being able to play multiple different heroes, and apparently, he just pops off. So, and we've seen it. We've seen it in OD. We've seen it in their own regional tournament. He's a player that we should definitely be looking out for in this coming match.
All right then. Well, Osh-Tekk are known for their tank-heavy compositions, and British Hurricane, they've shown kind of different playstyles over time. We all know them for their sort of triple DPS thing that they went for in the past. But what sort of compositions would you like to see come out from both of these teams in order to counteract one another's strengths?
I think starting with Osh-Tekk, we did highlight their tank-heavy comps, and that is something that's going to be the question for them. Are they going to just run that 3-tank, 3-support composition all the way through, something that was sort of the flavor of Open Division heading into Trials? Will they continue that? Or will they, sort of switch up and try and play some of the other styles, some of the other compositions that have come to the forefront as of late? We all know what people have described the composition, the 3 tanks, the 3 supports, how people sort of, comment on it sort of sarcastically. Oh, it's such an easy comp to play, but it isn't. And that really depends on sort of their heroes, or sort of how everyone can implement their heroes, whether that be aggressively, whether the compositions are actually sort of running through properly. It is very easy to say, oh yes, just go forward. That doesn't actually happen too often, and that's going to highlight something. We mentioned Sir Majid earlier. That is going to, of course, tie into the remainder of their roster. Can they bring that same level of play? Now, for the Hurricane, something I'm more interested in is this is a very highly touted roster. They are coming from, that vaunted position from Season 1 into the dregs of Season 2, but here in Season 3 now, they are likely the favorites. You can't, we can talk about, they're in Trials, but fundamentally, they're still that really good team, and I expect really, really high things from them, whether that be compositionally, where they're no longer playing sort of that same style over and over and are able and capable of switching it up at will. That's going to be the highlight for me, or that's going to be the expectation for me, rather, for the British Hurricane.
For me, I'm excited to see the Lucio v Lucio matchup. Funny Astro versus Beckenbauer. It's going to be huge. They're on both 900 IQ. Lucio's doing crazy plays. I want to see it.
Well, it's going to be pretty exciting. We've got these 2 high-progressive teams going head-to-head. British Hurricane trying to climb back up to their former title, and Osh-Tekk trying to prove themselves. But for now, we've got to see for ourselves what's going to happen. So we're going to throw to our casters, Trid and Legday, to take it away.
Thank you very much, Gio, and of course, your merry bunch of analysts to get us all set up ready for British Hurricane versus Osh-Tekk Warriors. And Harry, I don't know about you, but it's been a while without some Contenders action, and maybe we're going to see a little bit of return to form from the Season 1 champions and Atlantic Showdown winning British Hurricane.
Yeah, we've missed out on a little bit of Contenders action, but like the desk highlighted, this is a very highly talented roster, and one of the main changes we've seen moving from Season 2 was that they decided to put Crusade on the bench, and they've returned Funny Astro to the main roster, and if there's one thing we know about Funny Astro, Trid, it's that he's a really, really good Lucio.
Yeah, he's touted as one of the best. I often call him his funny aggro because he just doesn't seem to have any chill when he goes for enemy supports. But speaking of really good Lucios, they touched on it on the desk as well. Beckenbauer, one of these guys to look at. He definitely caught your attention when you were looking through some old footage.
Yeah, when I was watching Dopamine versus Osh-Tekk Warriors, one of the matches in Open Division, which qualified them for this spot in Contenders Trials, I was very, very impressed with the spacing that was understood by Beckenbauer with his boobs. He was always being able to save them in a very good way to be able to try and shut down enemy Reinhardts or try and prevent some aggression onto his backline.
And Legday, what are we going to be seeing here? I mean, ultimately, we're going to jump into the first map. That's going to be Ilios, of course. But throughout this series, we've got to ask the question. People who have been watching Europe kind of know that we're a GOATS region at the moment. Have things changed enough for us to see anything beyond GOATS, especially from British Hurricane?
Well, I'm not sure if we're going to see much beyond GOATS, but if there's one team that will bring it out, it will be British Hurricane. They did sort of pioneer some 3 DPS plays in Season 1 of Contenders back when very few other teams are playing it because they have such a flexible off-tank in half. We often call him the Icelandic Army Knife because he can play so many different heroes, but definitely D.Va is where he excels most.
We're about to jump onto the first map. It is, of course, Osh-Tekk Warriors versus British Hurricane in the first broadcasters game of Contenders Season 3 Trials. It's British Hurricane looking to prove they deserve to be back with the big boys and earn that sweet, sweet academy money.
And Nash bringing out that soldier straight away. Going to be able to bring out some long-range poke, and he's going to be moving up against Kassar Place, who's opted for McCree, which gives him a little bit more CC, but will suffer more damage fall off as well.
Already Happy taking a little bit of damage from the Brigitte, but all in all, it's British Hurricane with the positional advantage. Osh-Tekk need to emerge back onto it and start clashing with them, and that's Happy on the back line. Fusion's going low, but he will get healed up. Nesh taking a few pop shots with the Soldier onto the back line, but it's going to be the first cap going over to Hurricane. Osh-Tekk now need to look to try and take this back.
And you can really see the synergy here in British Hurricane's tank line. Often Kib's actually tanking quite a bit. A little bit too much there, unfortunately, falling to the Diva.
He's going to get himself fallen down, but beyond that, British Hurricane seems to be in control. Fusion's taking a different angle. They're not looking for him around that corner there. Tactical Visor opens it up for the rest of Osh-Tekk, but the bubble's going to knock him out, as well as the rocket flail from Toxin. But Fusion still finding certain margin, keeping the fight alive. But Osh-Tekk have got what they need, forcing out a Transcendence from Bokin. Toxin's going off the edge. The Primal Rage going to take him down the side of the map. Fusion's with another one onto Kassar. It's Happy-Cool. Still got his ultimate in the bag, but it's a full reset for Osh-Tekk as they jump down the well. 35% and ticking for the British roster.
And Fusion's got so much value there from a Primal Reach, not only because he got the knockoffs, but because he got knockoffs onto players that had armor that was applied from Toxin TV's rally. We know how ineffective Winston's Tesla coil damage can be against armor. It gets mitigated to just 30 DPS. It can take him 3.5 seconds just to take away that 100 armor that gets applied. But if they go off the edge, then there's nothing to worry about.
Check your clocks, it's high noon. Kassar unable to find anything. No shadows being cast on the sundial. He's looking for multiple kills. Gonna roll around the side. Visto popping that Primal Rage, not having the same effect as Fusion's had, but still enough to get one kill before he unleashed the ultimate. Gonna be there back onto the point. Osh-Tekk have that positional advantage and they've got a couple of kills. This could be the retake for them at 75% as they push forward beyond the point to get even more at the Hurricane roster. And the flip is good for them. They're gonna start getting themselves on the board.
Some enthusiastic nodding there from Visto. Bucket will eventually be taken down despite the armor that was applied to him from Kib's rally. The Kib now doesn't want to stay on this Brigitte. Instead, he's going to move over to a second DPS for Widowmakers on the field here, Trid. Massive sideline control was just to send out a warning shot, it seems. Already Kib back onto that Brigitte. Don't mess with us. You don't get to spawn camp on British Hurricane. They will just swap over to that Widowmaker and punish you for any aggression, which is undue.
Usually it's the Soldier telling kids to get off his lawn, but this time around it was Kib as he goes back onto the Brigitte. British Hurricane looking to take it to Osh-Tekk Warriors again. There's the target-rich environment, forcing Nesh away as the self-destruct is going to be the thing to deter him as he opens up the left click. Only going to find Toxin. The rest of Osh-Tekk have wrapped around the corner. They know they've got time to play with here. Don't have to fully commit. Could be a kill going down. Fusion's taken out. Maybe a little bit slow on the mark for Osh-Tekk as they give over control. Saar has to find alternative angles. A self-destruct coming out from Happy this time around over the top. Will take out Visto. One tank down, but Bucket's going to be the answer for Saar. Starting to put shells into the back of Happy. He's going to force a reposition, but the retake from British Hurricane, 90% and ticking. So close to getting that first round point. And Osh-Tekk haven't got a lot to show for it. They're about to hit the 50% mark. And British Hurricane know they've got the confidence to let them have that and play a little bit more conservative. But the sound barrier is going to open things up for them to jump onto the back line. The Astro getting a kill of his own. Nesh can open up on Saar. It's Happy there with the micro turrets. Forcing onto the back line, helping his team survive from the dire pressure of Osh-Tekk Warriors. Fusion's getting himself another kill. This fight's going to be going on for a while, but it looks like Fusions and the rest of British Hurricane are going to pull out ahead.
Nesh is building up these tactical visors just so quickly, and now Jazama trying his best to remake, but the second that he's back in it, its health is so low. Nesh farming that across the way with the long-range headshots.
This is it, 99% overtime going to tick down. It's going to be Stagger. Beautiful Helix rocket from Nesh there to secure the kill. And it's just Stagger tactics. You can tell the wrecking ball coming out. Looks like British Hurricane have got this one in the bag. And they're going to take first round on Ilios.
And just to comment on the composition that British Hurricane is currently touting, they are able to get even more team healing out than you usually see from a 3 support sort of setup. And when Bucket went down, we saw that mostly how everyone sort of grouped up around Nesh. They laid down the Bardic field, and that gives everyone 40 healing per second who's within that, meaning that they have as much, even more healing than if Bucket had the Harmony up there. So that allowed British Hurricane to survive in that fight after they'd lost their support and be able to try and bounce back. Of course, they were a little bit toothless without that Discord Orb, but still, when you've got accuracy as high as Nesh's, you don't really need the Discord Orb as much.
Yeah, it's hard to tell when he's using his tactical visor, when he's just aiming freehand at this point. Really good aim by this guy. But British Hurricane going to emerge again. Kib, we've been hearing a lot of rumors about the Doom Fist coming out from this guy. He's about to show us whether we should believe that hype as we jump on the Lighthouse for the second round of Ilios.
Well, Kib needs to make some very educated dives here, and Nesh's going to be the one feeding him all the information. Scouting around on that Sombra and Stealth, you can see for now. He's at a quick unstealth. He'll have his translocator probably back in base, and he needs to decide what kind of territory he wants to control. The Osh-Tekk Warriors are yet to show themselves. They are actually going for a quad tank composition here. No Brigitte, instead Toxin out on the Rotom.
This is something that should be familiar to British Hurricane, as Kip already getting that first kill on the Lucio and Visto. He'll show him down with the charge. Fusion's, of course, going to take out another one of these tanks. So half-mast for Osh-Tekk in terms of how much strength they're able to put out, but they're backed into a corner. But a grenade to deny all the healing. Fusion's just going to let the lightning flow through them just like the hate. He's going to take them all out. This is going to be British Hurricane flipping it back over in their control. I don't think Osh-Tekk can stay on this for much longer.
I don't think Fusion's even needed this Primal Rage. They look pretty set in stone for British Hurricane there. And it was all secured by Bucket, managing to hit that body grenade onto Visto, the main target of all of British Hurricane. Because when you have so much meat on Osh-Tekk Warriors, they're all relying on being behind Visto's shield in order to not feed a huge amount of ult charge over to British Hurricane. You can see now the ultimates are starting to come online for a British side. Nesh has that EMP ready to go. It's going to remove Visto's shield in a heartbeat, and then it's even more.
What are they going to do if they've not got themselves any abilities to use? You can see him playing so far back. So Marjed with the Coalescence, but it's just not enough to fight through all of the damage British Hurricane can pull through. The EMP completely negating Osh-Tekk Warriors.
So we need to see where Bucket wants to apply his nano boost for the forthcoming fight. He may decide to put it onto Fusion, try and get him a little bit of extra ultimate charge and a little bit of extra damage onto the vulnerable support line of Osh-Tekk Warriors, but they could also apply it to Kib, who can get even more engagement damage onto these large targets for even more burst.
Nano boost available, so is the sound barrier. They're going to let Osh-Tekk get onto the point, but the grenade is good. They've got one target to take out. It's Kassar, as Bucket's going to find Visto, and the fist are flying from Fusion, picking up a double, a triple. The Goomba stomping out, making a quad. Fusion's is popping off and making the case for why he should be back in that World Cup roster.
Osh-Tekk Warriors being welcomed to the jungle in style there. The nano boost and the primal rage was all that was required from British Hurricane to get a clean wipe there on Osh-Tekk Warriors, and now Osh-Tekk Warriors are in one fight territory. They need to win this next one or they could lose Ilios entirely. British Hurricane already having a point under their belt and 80% of the way towards claiming Lighthouse as well.
We saw how much that EMP shut down the quad tank. They're going to do it exactly again. And there goes the
no, not like this.
With a triple and the D-Mech. It's going to be all over for Osh-Tekk. There's no way they can come back from that. Ilios going over to British Hurricane to kick this series off.
97% and it's all over but the crying Trid. No one's going to be able to get there. Kib's coming to intercept. And there's a victory.
Well, British Hurricane coming back out, showing us that, hey, we've maybe had a bit of a weak season 2, but we're coming back for season 3. And look at that, we saw what we wanted to see from them as well. Some versatility, Doomfist, Sombra coming out. It may have only been one round, but it was enough to shut down a quad tank composition coming out from the Osh-Tekk Warriors. And already they get themselves a lead heading into this series with the first map. And Astro, you won't see on your screen, got himself player of the game, as you'd expect from an aggressive Lucio player.
And I don't know about you, Trid, but I'm incredibly glad that we haven't seen any 3-3 yet. We've seen Quad Tank, which is old, but now new. And we've seen some triple support with hit scans, McCree or Soldier. And I like to call the McCree comp the Sheriff comp, because it can often shut down divers so hard because you get the flashbang, then the shield bash. That's 1.7 seconds of sustained stun time onto diving tanks like a Diva or a Winston, so they get absolutely arrested.
And also, we can't take it away from Doc Bok playing this classic Ana. He whipped it out in previous seasons when it wasn't even as strong as it is now. And now that we see Ana come into prevalence with the buffs that have happened since season 2 of Contenders, he's definitely going to have a lot of fun this season, being able to drop those huge nades onto tank-heavy compositions. And British Hurricane, they have the coordination to dive on that singular purple target. You saw it on Kassar in that Lighthouse map. He was the only target to be affected by the biotic grenade, and immediately all of Hurricane jump on that target, force him out of the fight, and the quad tank just starts to fall apart.
You're very much able to move on to the single target, and you can see this is where the strength of some reinvigorated British Hurricane shot calling comes in, especially when we look at set plays, like what we saw when Hafiko managed to finish out that map, the EMP into the self-destruct. No one could really counter that out at all. They were all too slow as well. I imagine we probably saw Funny Astro playing bouncer around the doorways, booping people back into range of that self-destruct. And this is where you can really see where the experience of this team comes through. But still, Osh-Tekk managed to win out a couple of fights. We have seen Kassar bring out some larger plays on from McCree with some good dead eyes, whether they be zoning or to directly kill his opponents, managing to get good objective control on well.
It'll be interesting to see how the rest of the series develops. Of course, there is only one map, and if Contenders has taught us anything, especially in Europe, that there can often be the control curse where the team will win the first map and lose the rest of the series. It's entirely possible to happen in trials. And we kind of look at Osh-Tekk as being a tank-heavy team, not really flexing outside of that. But can their tank play be strong enough to shut down British Hurricane on other elongated maps rather than these arena-based ones that we see on Control? That's a question that we're going to need to see answered as we move into a new map pool for this third season.
Yeah, speaking of that map pool, let's give you a quick introduction, Trid. I'm going to try and do this off memory. So
here we go.
I believe the maps are Eichenwald and Hollywood for Hybrid. For Assault, it is Volskaya and Hanamura. And for Escort, I believe it is Dorado or Rialto.
Yes, you are right. You managed to get it all right, Harry.
That's a clap in the chat right there.
Well, you managed to get the map pool. So everyone knows. Also, the rules of this one is if the first map is always predetermined for today, it is Ilios. So not only are the matches you're watching, of course, there are other matches happening that aren't being broadcasted. They're all going to start on Ilios. And from that point onward, the person who lost the previous round chooses the map for the current one. So, of course, Ilios, Osh-Tekk Warriors lost it. The next map you see will be their choice from the map pool. So hopefully that leads to some preferential strategies for them because they can play a map that's more comfortable for them or one they would like to play. And we're going to find out which map that is very shortly. But Eichenwald or Hollywood, which way are you leaning on this one, Legday?
Well, both of them are rather similar maps in terms of how they break down in the second point, with high ground being so imperative to claim. And that means that, once again, 3-3 compositions aren't always your best bet when you move into their second points, but both can be used to try and roll over first. I do think Hollywood here is probably a better choice because Osh-Tekk Warriors know that British Hurricane haven't had to scrim Hollywood for a while. It was in neither of the contender seasons in which they were active.
In season 1.
Yeah. Was it in season 2?
It wasn't. It was in season 1. British Hurricane came in there. So most of that roster.
Oh yeah, it wasn't season 1. Pardon me.
Because it was the map that because Funny Astro is even used to it because he wasn't on the main roster. They used to start Crusade, and Funny Astro would just play control maps and specifically Hollywood in season 1. So he's got a lot of experience on this one. But Hollywood, it looks like it's going to be the map coming out for this time around. And I'm excited to see what adaptations come in from that first point onto the payload section of the map. Because when we get into the second part of Hollywood, in season 1, when we saw it played, it was always going to be the War of the Widows. And I don't think the meta's changed enough to deny sniper duels in this current matchup.
And yeah, when we talk about Nesh, she was brought in season 2 as a Widow specialist, some would say, although he did manage to flex himself onto other roles very effectively, like we saw with a Sombra in our previous map. But I imagine he'd love to get back to that Widow on the second point here for that long-range superiority. Osh-Tekk Warriors currently going to be rolling out with what looks like a 3-3 composition. They're opting to go for the Moira here, so we've got a little bit more sustained healing. They want to be able to slam into the tank line of British Hurricane with unrelenting force. And here, British Hurricane needs to be very careful. They don't have a speed boost, so Bucket can be ran down incredibly quickly.
This is what Osh-Tekk Warriors told us they want to do. They want to play that Moira, and they're going to do the wraparound. British Hurricane, familiar to this. Giganta used to do this all the time with Quad Tank against them when they played on Hollywood. So I think British Hurricane are familiar with what to do. They're going to hold that high ground position on Terra still, stay behind the shield. They're giving up so much territory, they have to move on to contest. Kib's already found Sermajed with the concussive mine. So there's going to be a bit of a problem for Osh-Tekk with the sustain if they're going to just dance around them and take them all apart. First defensive hold for British Hurricane.
They are. Kib just picking up kill after kill there. Nesh chasing out that Brigadier, and they will manage to deny Xar players any opportunity to keep that energy. And there, the largest pick that could have happened was, unfortunately, exactly what occurred against Osh-Tekk Warriors. Samajed was taken down by Kib with that concussive mine, and then you really see Osh-Tekk Warriors starting to flounder because they don't have enough sustained healing to try and stay in the fight. They have a little bit of healing from Lucio's Aura as well as Toxin's Inspire proccing, but it's not enough to sustain that many tanks, and that gives a lot of ultimate charge over to British Hurricane, ready to go already with a Riptire.
Rinse and repeat for Osh-Tekk, and like you said, difference being here, there's a Riptire available for Kib, so he's going to be pulling that cord. A little bit of a slow response from Osh-Tekk. They're waiting for that Amp It Up from Lucio to burst through the doors and get back onto this payload, but if that Riptire gets pulled and they're not on point with it, it could spell disaster for Osh-Tekk. And here we go, pull the cord. We're going for a little bit of a detour down the stairs and behind the shield. No more Reinhardt. Visto's been eliminated from the map. British Hurricane just jump back onto the point, try and see if they can get any stagger kills from Osh-Tekk, because they're going to have to reset and do this all over again.
And unfortunately for Reinhardt's, they are often the primary target of that Riptide. It does do 600 damage at its epicenter trid, and of course Reinhardt, with 500 health and some armor, takes 595 damage from that, will not be surviving, even with an armor pack coming through from a Brigida to try and top him up. And like we said again, once the shield is gone, you can farm up your ultimates on these compositions so effectively.
I like that Dragon Strike coming out. It forces them to rethink their route and start breaking up the norm and the pattern for Osh-Tekk Warriors. They're still on the point. Haven't quite got that third yet. Supercharger available for the rest of British Hurricane. They're cowering behind the shield. The Transcendent's going to keep them live. There's the charge. Going to find Nesh in the chaos. But the kill feed's still looking pretty blue. Funny Astro going to bring Nesh back up, and they've got a handle of this again. British Hurricane shutting down whatever Osh-Tekk are throwing at them.
And we saw on that second rotation there, Osh-Tekk were very smart to wait until the Sonic Hour of Nesh had dissipated before making their move. But unfortunately, they waited a little bit too long, and Nesh got a second one available to then be able to clue up British Hurricane as to what direction to expect the Osh-Tekk Warrior aggression. But now, the Graviton Surge is available. This could be the ace in the hole that Osh-Tekk need to take this point.
Yeah, the winning switch has been flipped. Nice halt there to shut down some movement from Osh-Tekk, and they're going around the high ground, want to take it from them. The rally leading them in. Here comes the Riptide from Kip over the top of the rooftops, and he goes straight in, finds Casa Place, shuts down the Graviton Surge as an option for Osh-Tekk Warriors, burning even more of their time with 30 seconds remaining. They're dropping a sound barrier. They want to commit to this one as the Dragon Strike's going to find not one, but two because of the self-destruct coming out from the Diva. Another controlled defense from British Hurricane, and there's a couple of members just to support alive. They're going to drop 20 seconds remaining. One last push, but it's going to be messy, leg day.
Indeed, Jaffa moving, or rather Jazza now moving over to the Wrecking Ball, wants to be able to get back to that point. Quick time, Toxin over to that Tracer as well. Now, the only tool once again is Kassar plays with this Graviton, but he can't pick and choose where he's going to be placing it.
They're holding them off of the point, but they're sitting on the Supercharger in cover. Coalescence nearly taking out Funny Astro, but Kim, he's getting the job done. Toxin going down as well as Beckenbauer as the self-destruct's put onto the point by Happy, clearing them all off to try and burn through the overtime. The kill feed looking all blue. The Wrecking Ball coming out for the stagger, but he's set straight on a trap, and he's going nowhere. Overtime's going to burn down. British Hurricane full hold Hollywood and look to move this on to a second map win in the series.
Yet another dominant performance from British Hurricane, and let's not forget this was the choice of Osh-Tekk Warriors as to where they were going to be planting their chances to attack here. They had a choice of Hollywood or Eichenwald with them reasonably similar points. And that was a great defensive setup from British Hurricane. I loved the double projectile approach that really is only available to a select few teams who have these flexible DPS in their roster. And this is where we see Kib and Nesh really come into their own. Kib, I'm pretty sure, can play absolutely anything. Trid, he can play Tracer, he can play Genji, he can play pretty much any projectile hero as well as a great Zarya as well.
I
and
think
even
you have a
little
better
bit
time
of a
or an
Winston.
easier time telling me heroes he can't play. Harry.
Well, I haven't seen Kib's Torbjorn yet, but
No.
I wouldn't be
We'll
surprised
wait
if
until
they can bring it out.
1.29. Torbjorn
Yeah, man.
changes. Might work out for us.
Kib is he's all about the reworks, man. He's all about the reworks.
I like what I'm seeing from their offensive lineup already. They roll with this slightly more dive orientated with the Genji Sombra combination. Completely different to what Osh-Tekk were running on their offense, but Osh-Tekk are doing more of the same on defense. It looks like they're going to hold the defensive goats on Hollywood.
It's also worth noting that Osh-Tekk Warriors are actually running a slightly different roster here for Trials. They do not have Beckenbauer, who I touted as one of the greatest Lucios before, and they do not have IM7. Instead, they've got Jazzafina in here and Lorp Q8. That's a...
I'm not gonna lie to you, Harry. I've genuinely thought that was a default name given to the OPR account. So that's
It's a barcode, man.
That's what I thought it was. I didn't realize it was a completely different player for Osh-Tekk. And that's one of the problems with Osh-Tekk Warriors. Like, there's so little information about their entire roster out there because they're playing from a completely different region. This is their debut into this level of European play.
Now Fusion's going to be leading out the charge once again. The dive tank's going to be leading this, but he is going to be by himself. Happy-Cool, not going to be on the Diva that's usually joining Fusions on those dives. Instead, it will be triple support coming out here. They're going to be supporting 2 DPS though. Nesh is going to be out here scouting off a Sombra, and Kim's going to have a long-range poke with the Genji, only for a few more seconds though. They have a look at that GOAT's composition and decide they had enough of this.
well, they're going to go back and they're going to show them how to play goats, but it's their style. They're putting Bucket on the Zenyatta to shred through the goats into goats matchup. We see so much in Europe. They're veterans at doing this, Harry.
Indeed they are. This means that Visto has to be so careful about swinging or doing those charges.
Already swinging with the Brigitte, already had a charge collision, but Toxins isolated from the rest of the team, going to be taken down. This is going to fall apart for Osh-Tekk Warriors so quickly. They've lost 2 members, and they're having to scatter and try and buy time, but British Hurricane aren't letting off the brakes as they're going to shred through Osh-Tekk Warriors. If they can just take out that pesky Lucio, get the D-Max Diva, that's Hollywood going into their favor as well.
So much offensive power there from British Hurricane by bringing out that Zenyatta, but Osh-Tekk Warriors played it how they should with Hanamura. They need to make a quick engagement there because Vista would be under so much pressure with that Discord, or whenever he would let his shield down to swing, that would instantly be applied, and then Fusions could bully him out.
It's unfortunate for Osh-Tekk Warriors, but well, they'll be able to force out the 5th map, at least, if they can win the next 2 maps. We're going to throw it over to our analysts, and they're going to break down the series so far.
Guys, I just checked the weather forecast, and it looks like there's a hurricane coming over here in the EU. Let's talk about these first 2 maps, starting with Ilios. We spoke in the pre-game about what compositions we're going to be expecting to see come from these 2 teams. Osh-Tekk, pretty tank heavy. They just didn't seem to be up there with British Hurricane and Ilios in what they were trying to do. And, what are they doing? Like, what was going on with these compositions in Ilios? LaFon.
I think this is less about Osh-Tekk being... I think this is less an Osh-Tekk story and more a British Hurricane story. They play the composition they choose, and this is something we touched on in our pregame, but like I think it's worth revisiting here. Is that Osh-Tekk needs to somehow make British Hurricane make a decision. Right now, British Hurricane have decided to play what they want, whether that be reactively to what Osh-Tekk are running, but they've decided to play what they want and haven't been forced to budge whatsoever. That Lighthouse round on Ilios was an example of that. They play, the Sombra Doomfist dive with Baka on the Ana and just absolutely crush in terms of their execution. They don't ever make a mistake, and every single run on that point goes in their favor. There's no fight that is ever won by Osh-Tekk in its entirety of that round. So British Hurricane haven't had to really make a decision in their playstyle. They just play. And that is going to be the litmus test going through the remainder of the series for Osh-Tekk. They need to figure out a way to at least make them budge in their gameplay.
Now, moving on to Hollywood, we saw quite a stark difference in the ult generation on each team. I mean, it felt like 3 seconds you would see Kib coming out with a new Junkrat tire. What was the key thing that led to such a difference?
So that comes down to composition swapping. When you run that Goats comp on attack, now obviously this is specifically for Osh-Tekk, you're running that Goats attack, you have to be grouped up. It is a brawl comp, that's the idea, which that gives Junkrat so much free reign. He can just spam nades into your team, and based off of any direct hits and any splash damage, he's building up that ult charge ridiculously fast. Of course, British Hurricanes, being the team that they are, they know how to play Hollywood. They held that high ground. They played a composition that they knew could hold high ground. So Goats comp, which is something that you need to be brawling, you need to be on the enemy team as quickly as possible. It was difficult for them to get onto that high ground. So as soon as they made a push to get there, they were already man down. And that made it difficult for them to build their own ultimates. We made a point earlier, it took them something like 3 minutes to get up to 4 ultimates, and at that point, it's just too late. They should have made some swap-ups. That was their biggest downfall. And then when they came onto the defense, they had the Goats defense. British Hurricanes came out with the Winston and the Genji, moved out onto point, saw the Goats, hightailed it back to spawn, swapped it up onto Goats, knowing that the moment they touched point, Osh-Tekk would have to jump in onto them. And that brings the brawl, and then the fight is already in their favor. So Osh-Tekk, really, the biggest issue that they had there was just swapping up their comps. You can't keep running into a wall if that wall is not moving.
Well, we spoke earlier about kind of some of the mechanically gifted side of what British Hurricane have to offer, but do you think maybe the most valuable thing for them in this series so far has been their ability to swap?
I mean, British Hurricane, right? Yes, that is in fact a really a highlight of that. It's
Yes.
hard to go into. It's hard to go into what they've done wrong. Because they realistically haven't. They've played what they wanted to and executed perfectly, at least so far in this series. There isn't really a whole lot to describe as being negative about British Hurricane in their playstyle. They've done a really great job so far. And on Osh-Tekk side, it's basically the inverse. They haven't played even the comp that they want to run particularly efficiently or cleanly. And even when they do end up, they continue running the same thing over and over when it's not working. At some point, you have to figure out that it's not. Like, you can't keep bumping your head against the wall, bashing your head against the wall, and expecting it to work if the wall's not moving. There has to be some give there from Osh-Tekk, and I want to see that from them in the remainder of the series and through the remainder of the season included.
Well, clearly we've been pretty impressed by British Hurricane so far, but in spite of some of the mistakes that Osh-Tekk seem to be making, have there been any players on their side who have stood out to you? I mean, I know their playstyle, they tend to work around each other a lot rather than going off for kind of individual plays, but has there been anything that's impressed either of you so far?
I think I'll take this one because there was some highlights on Ilios where they played the McCree sort of a dive-esque composition with the Diva Winston. There was some execution there. Their tank play was pretty impressive. They did have moments of clarity in terms of their execution and their timing. So I think the team is basically, they have bright moments. It's not like they're completely getting stomped out in every single aspect of the game where they're completely not even in the lobby. But I think it's now, can they continue to bring that even under pressure? Because British Hurricane play quickly and they play cleanly. Osh-Tekk have been given no opportunities in terms of mistakes made. They have to create those mistakes for themselves. And now the question is, can they throughout the remainder of the series to bring us to a map 5?
Nari, 30 seconds. Do you think Osh-Tekk have what it takes to take the next map?
At this point, it's looking grim for Osh-Tekk. I think that if they can rally themselves, we've seen it done before with plenty of other teams. They come in for that reverse sweep, they get their mind together, they get their stuff sorted out, manage to bring in those swaps, and they bring it home. So I believe it's possible. But that being said, I think Hurricanes, they're going to take this.
Well, we'll have to see for ourselves. So we're going to throw it back over to Trid and Leg Day and see if Osh-Tekk can quell the storm that is British Hurricane.
Well, you heard it from the analysts, looking like we're going to see British Hurricane walk away with this one for the next 2 maps. Leg Day, it's hard not to agree with them at this point.
I'd say British Hurricane right now taking a leaf out of DocBox book. It's clean and precise, or as I call it, surgical. They've been able to... Oh, that's a good word.
Here he is.
And they've been able to make these clean incisions into the meat of Osh-Tekk Warriors again and again, always isolating one player who they think is a little bit out of position, whether it's a slightly too aggressive warrior who thinks they can get a little bit of cheeky barter grasping in for extra DPS, but up to that coalescence even faster, or if it's someone who may well be up against a wall in an unfavorable position, like we saw Bucket with the Ana, splashing barter grenades off the walls behind Vishto in order to secure those anti-heals around the mitigating factors that can be applied through a quad tank setup like a defense matrix or like a Reinhardt shield or even projected barriers from Azaya, but they saw the projected barriers had already been used. So they were easily able to circumvent that cleansing ability and then be able to secure kills onto key targets.
It just shows the level of mastery, shall we say, that British Hurricane has in comparison to Osh-Tekk over how to play this matchup specifically. It's almost like they played an entire season against the GOATS composition religiously, Harry. I don't know how they got so much practice in against the composition. It just boggles my mind.
I don't know, man. They probably are feeling a little bit better about beating out some GOATS compositions. Didn't happen too much in Season 2, as many of us know, and also why they are here. But it looks like they have now figured out how they want to do this. Not only that, their GOATS composition with the Zenyatta from Bucket is pretty surgical. As I'm going to say the word again, because DocBox is exactly that. He's always able to put that... Put the scalpel that is for Discord or exactly where it needs to be, which is often on Vista, this main tank. So it's just taking too much damage, or they're taking advantage of aggression from Red Brigida. We saw Toxin TV trying to go in deep, and they can potentially do that because he doesn't need to peel for a Zenyatta on the side of Osh-Tekk Warriors. Instead, they can go very aggressive with Brigida because Moira can peel for herself with a Fade, doesn't need the same sort of attention that an Ana or a Zenyatta would.
And their Moira variation that Osh-Tekk is using, they have their reasons for it. They think they're able to just run straight through a GOATS composition, straight through a tank matchup, and ignore the head-to-head, so to speak, and rely on that superior turnover of ult frequency you can get from Moira, because let's face it, Coalescence is like, just comes very quickly. We're about to jump into our next map, and Legday, what do you think it's going to be if you ignore what the producer just told us?
Well, our producer has not told us anything trippy to not draw attention to what goes on behind the scenes. We have our own we have our caster code regarding where we're going to go.
We never pull back the curtain. We don't Wizard of Oz this.
It's either going to be Volskaya or Hanamura, and I don't think they want to go
it's
up.
Going to be Harry?
I think it's going to be Hanamura simply because going to Volskaya against the double sniper that could be brought out from Nesh and Kib on Volskaya would be just deathly, to be honest. You don't want to go against a double sniper on Volskaya. So go to Hanamura, where we've seen, I think mostly it was Angry Titans who pioneered using tank rushes on Hanamura. Many other teams were partial to using a hit scan on high ground to try and take advantage of the nature of second point, but this is where those tanks can work, and Osh-Tekk may decide to go for that similar strategy.
I also remember that 1 week of Season 1 when we had Hanamura in the map pool, that Eagle Gaming decided to run their quad tank roster, and they did the exact same thing, just ran at them with a slambulance and knocked them flat on their backs.
Just knocked them flat, and looks like Kib's going to be trying to do exactly the same thing once again up on the Doomfist, and Neshia is going to be calling out those targets, especially if you can get a hack straight away. Bucket and Funny Astro, there's going to be no Lucio available. Again, they've got to be very careful. But look at this, Warp coming out on the Symmetric and try and teleport everyone in onto the point, try and circumvent the choke entirely. There goes for Teleporter.
He's going to try and get themselves onto the point themselves. Already moving him onto the fight. Harry, I do believe I'm a little bit behind you, so everything you've just said is not what's being shown by the audience, but gonna have a little bit of delay. They're using the Symmetra instead. A huge biotic grenade coming out from British Hurricane to shut down all the healing from Osh-Tekk Warriors. And looks like they're gonna have to try it all over again after a creative open from Symmetra.
Indeed, but they didn't really have any healing available. Toxin TV was there on the Brigade, but can only get the repair pack out once every couple seconds, and of course, keeping on proccing that Inspire by hitting the melee strikes. But British Hurricane, they had plenty of healing available. Not only that, they could deny healing from this team with a lack of healers by hacking health packs on the side of Nesh. They can't duck out of there and try and pick up a cheeky health pack, because Nesh has that territory control. Looks like Osh-Tekk Warriors are going to once again try this, but now British Hurricane know the jig is up. They know exactly.
They've already destroyed the teleporter. Fusion's taking that one out quite comfortably, and they're looking to try and return some damage onto him, but there's a nano-boosted Primal Rage Winston just battering you to 6. There's not much you're going to be able to do about it. He's chasing after Reinhardt. He's got the Discord Orb on him in the corner with the lightning, and the healing's not going to be there for Osh-Tekk Warriors.
Indeed, British Hurricane know they are sitting on match point in order to secure it. Fusions is throwing the nano-boosted hands, but so much it has already built up towards that Coalescence, and we talked on the desk about how so much it is always throwing out these ultimates as soon as possible because he can build those Coalescences so fast with how aggressive Osh-Tekk Warriors is. It looks like right now Osh-Tekk Warriors have very much decided to mix it up. They're going for Toxin TV on the Sombra, wants to try and duel out with Nesh on those two hacking flankers.
They got themselves through that first choke, but still, Toxin on the Sombra, looking to feed information to his team. The high ground position being taken by Jazza. He's going to move on to the rest of the team. Self-destruct going up high. They have to get out of the courtyard. There's already 2 kills coming in from British Hurricane. Transcendence being used by Bucket will keep everyone alive. Funny Astro, the one to take over Ana responsibilities as Kib goes in with the uppercut and the fish shotgun to get another kill.
Let's talk about just how aggressive this composition can be with the healer setup that they have. Funny Astro and Bucket are so hard to reach. They can always just sit up on high ground should they so desire. And Funny Astro and Bucket both have long-range healing as well with the Harmony Orb and of course with the long-range Bardic Rifle, which doesn't have any healing or damage drop-off. So once everyone's topped up, Funny Astro can continue to do DPS as well, and the Discord Orb is also in play. Not only that, everyone can play so far forward because of the long-range healing, but Osh-Tekk Warriors have to sacrifice so much in terms of health if they even want to reach for support of British Hurricane.
Okay, well, now we're going to see Kassar on the Genji, trying to get through, taking the same route, but there's an nano-boosted fusions in the room. Sleep Dart comes out from Sir Majed, going to completely negate the usage of that nano boost. So nice trade there. Coming out. over the high ground, taking the route as we'd expect to see. This is the route you take if you're playing goats, but they're running a dive-heavy composition with the Genji Sombra this time around. Still want to take that route, punch to the side. There's a dash to get him back in position. Very slow pace coming out as the Meteor Strike comes down from the rooftop, get him in position, drops down low with the fist into the wall, uppercut into the shotgun blast by Kim. There was no reaction from this though, because you just can't react to it.
Kim a little bit lost for a second there, wondering where the enemy damage was coming from, but he has found the Lucio, gonna wrap around, but Fusion takes it first, and now dire straits once again for Osh-Tekk Warriors. They've got a bad feeling of deja vu right here, Trid. 10 seconds on the clock. Looks like it's gonna have to be Kassar who needs to make a mad dash to a point. The tanks are in pursuit as well. Toxin could potentially build up an EMP here.
So Marjet's also very close to that nano boost, but do you know who's not close to the point? Osh-Tekk Warriors.
Not quite what they wanted there.
To get themselves set up there. I believe we'll go to a quick break just while we sort out some syncing issues, and then we'll be back to bring you the next round of Hanamura.
Tripping all over my shoes, yeah, I'm falling for you. Ain't nobody like you, yeah, you got me. Tripping all over my shoes, yeah, I'm falling for you. Ain't nobody.
Thanks very much, guys, for bearing with us, Joel. We just sorted out a technical issue. Just saw British Hurricane hit the full hold defense against Osh-Tekk Warriors, and now it's Hurricane's time to go on the offense. And there's not a very high bar for them to meet to win this map and ultimately the series, Harry.
Once again, just as with Hollywood, only 33. Oh no, Trid. Due to realization, British Hurricane have won the series. Because now Osh-Tekk Warriors cannot win this map, it means that their maximum potential scoreline is 1-2.
I'm usually so good at noticing that.
I rained on your parade. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm usually the one who
Actually,
rains
a
on
hurricane
people's
on your
parade with that.
parade.
Well, we know the outcome of the series, unfortunately, because Osh-Tekk Warriors cannot get any more than a draw on this map. Unfortunately, they're not going to be able to get the map wins to beat the series. So already, British Hurricane have won their first series of their run back into Overwatch Contenders. Map difference can play into this, unfortunately, though. Like, we know all too well how important map difference is at the end of a tournament or a league like Trials and Contenders is. So Osh-Tekk Warriors, they might get a draw here. That's one less on your map difference, and you could win the final map. So you actually only end up with a -1 map difference from the entire escapade.
Absolutely that, but we know that British Hurricane will be going for the throat. They've got their fangs out, and Kib's got the shurikens out as well on the Genji. Moving up against Kassar Plays, who's now picked up the Doomfist. A little bit of a aping of his hero.
Now Kib's just going to get himself hacked out off the top. So slow play from British Hurricane. They're just figuring out what they want to do with this one as they emerge through valiantly, getting themselves into the courtyard. Here comes the Doomfist from Kassar, already taking out Bucket. This is the different Osh-Tekk we've seen from before, being proactive with those kills and actually shutting down Hurricane's first initial push.
Here they have already British Hurricane being rebuffed. In comes a hack from Toxin TV, but Fusion's gone in too deep. Kassar Plays is going to be taken out by that dive, and now British Hurricane are reclaiming space.
Getting themselves on to the point. They have positional advantage. It's absolutely huge for British Hurricane. Osh-Tekk need to get on there and start contesting. They've got one body on the point. Nano boost already being used on to Visto. Going to keep him alive. Extra durable. Kibs off to the side. 2/3 of the way to that Nano Blade as Happy gets a D-neck onto his opposite man. And they're just dipping themselves gently into the pool. But the EMP from British Hurricane should win in the fight. Toxin comes in for the counter. But it's too little, too late. British Hurricane going to be taken away with this map. And of course, we're going to get ourselves a 3-0 scoreline in the series with one more map to play.
That is a 3-0, but I would like to highlight some good plays there from Osh-Tekk. We see Visto disengage from that EMP, managing to keep himself from being hacked so he could drop a shield and defend his hacked allies afterwards. And then Toxin TV came in and managed to strip away all of the overshielding available from the sound barrier by using his own EMP. And also Sir Majid did have a dying valiant breath with that nano boost as he was taken down by Kib. So very good understanding there from Osh-Tekk as to what they need to do in the circumstance which they found themselves. But unfortunately, the Hurricane was just a little bit too strong.
Looks like we got a bit of an extended break as well coming out onto this one, so we might disappear for a couple of minutes as the teams get ready for their fourth and final map. But have we got any final thoughts on this map in particular, Harry?
I love seeing Kib continually pull out this Doomfist. I feel that he has a great understanding of the mechanics that are available. And also, I love seeing this these double long-range supports come out, because we know just how mechanically skilled British Hurricane are, how mechanically gifted Funny Astro is as well. And he's showing that he's not just a funny Lucio. He is not just a funny Lucio. He's not just a mechanically gifted Lucio either. He can bring out the Ana. He can bring out the Mercy that we saw on Hollywood as well. And this was one of the big questions surrounding Funny Astro. How deep is his hero pool? And he's really demonstrating that here in this particular match.
Hero depth still needs to be displayed from Osh-Tekk if we're going into that final map. They want to get a win in this series and finish with pride. Osh-Tekk Warriors have all to play for the final map. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring you all that action. Contenders Season 3 trials. It's not just Overwatch Season 3. We're in, what, 12
Yeah, we're just
now, Harry?
trialing for
12?
Overwatch.
Is it 12? Season 12? 11?
I don't know, man. Actually, Overwatch works on a 3-season system, so we'll just be Season 1 2019 next.
Yeah, that is the next season coming up after this, I imagine. So
We'll never reach Season
Contenders
12.
2018 Season 3 trials. First match being broadcasted, British Hurricane versus Osh-Tekk Warriors. And British Hurricane already got a 3-0 lead over Osh-Tekk in the series, confirming themselves the series win. However, in a system like this, map difference does come into play as we get closer to the conclusion of trials. So Osh-Tekk really want to make sure that they don't go in with a -4 deficit to kick things off.
And yeah, I don't think it would be too inappropriate to say that Osh-Tekk Warriors are indeed underdogs. So every single map win they can rack up here, so when they're looking to get that 3rd or 4th seed moving into Contenders, will be incredibly crucial. So we can see that Osh-Tekk Warriors here are going to be on the attack first, and for now it looks like they're going to be bringing out that 3-2-1 composition. They've got the 2 healers. They've got 3 tanks, and of course Toxin TV is going to be here on the Sombra. Could just be getting some scouting, but it looks like he's actually going to be committing. You can see him on the left-hand side of your screen there, underneath where Nesh currently is hanging out.
They got already Funny Astro going in for the cheeky environmental boom, unable to land it. That's so solo queue, it's unreal. But they're going to be looking to push this part around the corner. British Hurricane only just now taking the bait of going down to their level, but they're keeping this high ground position. They're not wanting to drop down to the lower levels of Osh-Tekk until Gib goes in with the fist. Going to be blocked out. Oh, misses the elbow drop, but the uppercut is good as Toxin is knocked for 6, and the rest of Osh-Tekk are trapped in this small kill room for British Hurricane to peek and prod at until they get everything they need.
Oh, what a
They
biotic
to deny the
grenade.
healing. This Funny Astro, Kib and Happy going on the offense to shut down the offense of Osh-Tekk.
Big grenade there coming through from Bucket, and you can see exactly why Kib is so effective on this Doomfist, because he can deliver that burst damage to Toxin. It can really test the reaction speed of a Sombra to have to pre-fire that translocator before they are hit, because of course you are stunned by the Doomfist punch. You can see Toxin once again moving around the back. May decide to try and get a hack here onto either Kib or Bok, but already British Hurricane have 3 ultimates ready to go, and Fusions, Happy Cool, and Kib almost have their own as well.
They want their own high ground for Osh-Tekk as they jump across the gap. Going to use the EMP to deny all mobility, and that's a nano-boosted Winston on the bridge with the D-Mech. Happy Cool getting the kill on the Visto, and he's looking for more. He's going to start to cut through Zarya. Protective barriers there for the defense. It's still looking like it's an easy cleanup for British Hurricane. I'm not sure what Osh-Tekk Warriors are going to be able to do with this particular composition.
Kasar plays there, had some great game sense. He knew it was 99% of the way towards his Graviton. Decided to jump off the edge because passive charge would complete the ultimate charge available there and not give Bucket extra charge towards his own support ultimates by allowing healing by doing damage. And now British Hurricane, they use 3 ultimates, and Trid, they got 3 ready to go again, but they're going up a course against the Graviton Surge. Some would say the most powerful ultimate in the game. The question is, what can they combine it with? Jazza doesn't quite yet have that self-destruct ready to go, but Visto can always swing into the grab.
They're just going to have to kill him with Tinnitus, apparently. Sound barrier doesn't deal damage, but I bet they wish it did. As Kasar goes in, still got himself that Graviton Surge. They're just sitting on the payload. They don't want any movement, but they're happy to bait them into it as Fusions gets the Goomba Stomp onto Toxin, denying the EMP that was now available for Osh-Tekk. While the grenade is there, the offensive trigger should come in from British Hurricane.
Who's attacking again?
They're happy to play it slow. They have control of the goods. Graviton Surge pulls them together. There's a charge to take Happy off to the side of the map. He's going to be fine as the self-destruct finds no one as well. They're playing outside the Osh-Tekk spawn room as Happy gets the return kill onto Visto. We're going to be seeing Sir Marjed going down as well. British Hurricane still able to keep control with 1 minute to go.
Oh, great boot there, though, from Lorp 2 down. Bucket and Fusion is going to take a little while to return to the fray, but British Hurricane remain in control. And the path thing we've seen from Osh-Tekk Warriors going out the right-hand side of spawn and across that bridge meant that they haven't really been touching the payload that much. Yeah. So we're 3 minutes and 10 seconds in, Trid, and it's only about to go around the first corner. Visto is going to be posting up on top of there, and Samajed uses a fade for no discernible reason, it would appear. And now Nesh is going to get a little bit of
spy checking, found themselves a Nesh. He's going to have to get himself out of their most ricky tick. They move on to the courtyard section of this first part of Rialto. Another nano-boosted Fusions yet again to break through them. Shatter finding no one from Visto as the EMP going to cut through all the abilities. Self-destruct over the top, finding 3 from Happy Cool. Going to shut down Osh-Tekk Warriors with 20 seconds on the clock.
Fusion's in a little bit of trouble, he's falling low, but of course he is playing this long sideline, and it's exactly where Bot can babysit him. British Hurricane invested heavily in that fight, 4 ultimates used, and now Fusion's coming in with the 5th.
Gonna keep bopping him off. Didn't quite get the environmental, but it did put Toxin in a very unfavorable spot with the grapple hook. Only just got himself back up there. Overtime was triggered by Osh-Tekk Warriors. It's being contested currently, but with no healing for Tatar plays. He's going to be able to cut through him again. Self-destruct, clearing some space. There's not enough bodies on the point for Osh-Tekk Warriors to keep this up as Kib gets an uppercut going into Marjet. D-Mech trying to bring some respite for Osh-Tekk Warriors as they take Happy Cool out of his mechanical suit. The kills are still coming in for British Hurricane. They're going to end Osh-Tekk Warriors' push just shy of the courtyard area.
Yeah, they are not a huge amount of distance there gained from Osh-Tekk Warriors, but of course, they did get past that first corner, so we can construe this as a reasonably winnable, reasonably winnable map trip. However, British Hurricane, like I said before, they're going for the throat. They want that 4-0. This is their return to potential glory after a nosedive that was Season 2. And here, they could tell everyone, guess what, guys? We're British Hurricane. We are London Spitfire, the winner of Overwatch League, the inaugural season's academy team. And we are back.
Oof, it was a bit of a, I imagine. Yeah, Spitfire, we won Overwatch League Season 1. Hurricane. How's our academy team doing, by the way? Oh, Trials.
Yeah.
But they pulled up from the nosedive. They brought on Pilot Albion to steer the flight back to have a bit of course correction, shall we say. Osh-Tekk Warriors, it's hard to say how well Hurricane are doing because we don't have any read of Osh-Tekk. We need a litmus test of this team that we can actually take someone from Contenders Season 2, who's now in trials as well, which surely will happen as the 3 weeks of competition go on. We've started to get a better read of how British Hurricane is actually doing in comparison. Looking good so far. I like what I'm seeing from Hurricane. Let's see if they can keep it up moving into trials and then hopefully Contender Season 3.
And let's just talk about British Hurricane's choice here to maintain the same roster, because we talked about this a lot in Season 2 with how the teams that seem to stick together, like Angry Titans and Eagle Gaming with the same roster, tended to do a lot better than teams that decided to mix things up. And it shows that if you just bear with any sort of weaknesses you may perceive in your team, have patience for people, and instead work on synergy instead of trying to plug every hole by removing an entire plank from your ship and replacing it with a new one, that you can build up this such amazing synergy that's so powerful in Overwatch.
And that was one of the things we credited British Hurricane with in Season 1, was their synergy. It just seemed to fall apart in Season 2, but it's looking very much like it's back for Season 3. Payload moving very slow. I think they're making some changes. They're aware something's not quite right as Toxin is hiding in that corner behind them. They're going for themselves a nice bit of goats to run out into greener pastures.
Toxin in the back trying to come in with a hack, for now it's just SMG power and he's not quite doing a huge amount of damage. Rocket falls to half health, but Funny Astro and Happy Cool are going to be peeling back.
The thing is, they're able to pull Happy and another member back into the background to protect Bucket, but they're still making very quick progress with the payload at the same time. So we're going to need a biblical stall from Osh-Tekk as they breach into this courtyard to kick things off.
Yeah, already Osh-Tekk Warriors are in one-fight territory, and Nesh has got all the energy he needs and more. Fusion Shield is falling low, so he's going to back off, use that payload for cover, and Bucket's going to need a little bit of attention as well in the back. Toxin is quickly building up towards that EMP, and already a Coalescence is ready to go.
Coalescence is going to cut through, but Kib's already cut through Visto with his own rocket flare whip. Osh-Tekk aren't touching the payload. They need to get in position to contest it. And look how close it's forcing Sir Marjet to play with that Coalescence in range of melee for the rest of British Hurricane. There's not much Osh-Tekk Warriors can do. 4-0 series in favor of the team on the path to redemption.
Can we just take a moment to appreciate that Funny Astro just got a sound barrier as quickly as Moira got a Coalescence?
Insane player, dude. Insane player.
What is Funny Astro? Is he Beast? Is he Man? Is he Frog? Or is he DJ? I don't know. But he is getting so many sound barriers. He's been such an integral part of his team. His promotion to the main roster, very valuable here for the side of British Hurricane.
He's a valuable player. Like, there was a lot of concerns in the previous seasons about, oh, we just sub in Astro and make him play Lucio, and that's all he can play. Obviously, he looks his best on the Lucio. It is his main hero, but he expanded his hero pool in Season 2, and we've seen him on some variation for Season 3 so far in Trials. So I'm liking what I'm seeing from Funny Astro, a player that was once labeled as a one-trick.
Yeah, he's been able to diversify rather well. We've seen that Mercy on Hollywood. We saw the Ana on Hanamura, and I'd love to see some more of his hero pool come out in the future matches.
Absolutely. Well, that's all for myself out from Trid and Leg Day today. I don't think you're going to see this combination very often, but treat it as a treat that you did. We're going to throw it over to our analyst who's going to break down what you saw in that series.
So, guys, it was the first step in British Hurricane's redemption arc. As Trid put it, we're on a 4-0 to British Hurricane. Commiserations to Osh-Tekk Warriors. But let's have a look at some of the things that we saw in the latter half of that series. One of the things that our casters were bringing up was how Funny Astro has really come into himself, and he's really proven himself as such a valuable support. One of the things we mentioned, particularly while watching that Rialto game, was the faith that British Hurricane were putting in their healers, Bucket and Funny Astro. Can we talk about this a bit and how much value that added to their defense?
I mean, what happens when you get so much chain healing? It's your tanks just don't go down. When your tank don't go down, it's really tough for the enemy team to sort of create any space for themselves. So, British Hurricane, a well-oiled machine, and it really shows in what from their healers to their tanks, everything in between. A really great job from them throughout the series. They were the better team all the way through. Osh-Tekk, there is room for improvement, but I think at their core, the British Hurricane is just, again, as a team, much more coordinated.
Yeah, I can get behind that 100%. You know, we saw moments there where Fusion was running in there. He had like 2 HP and he was still diving into the enemy team because he had faith that Funny Astro was going to throw that nade, keep him up, constantly allow him that space that he needs. There was no fear, there was no concern, and that is exactly what you need in your team. That synergy, that trust in your teammates, knowing that they're always going to be there, they're always going to have your back, and ultimately that is what pushed them over the edge. I think that's possibly something that Osh-Tekk might need to work on a little bit more, is just
Okay, well, speaking about trust in teammates, as Nari was just commenting on, another role that you have to really put trust in is your tank line, because you have to trust them to be making the space for you. And in Hanamura particularly, where you have that initial choke point, you have to trust your tanks to be able to push through and create the space for the rest of your team to follow. How did we see a difference, Lafon, in the tank play coming out from both teams that allowed British Hurricane to take Hanamura and Osh-Tekk to not even really touch the point?
I mean, to highlight, this is actually something that highlights what the caster said earlier. Funny Astro was playing the Ana on Hanamura with Bucket on the Zen throughout the majority of that map. So interestingly, it was something that Funny Astro looked amazing at, is hitting those biotic grenades. That denying all the healing. We did sort of highlight that Osh-Tekk were playing that 3-3 comp, although they started off with the Symmetra to get to the point quicker with the teleporter. A bit of an inventive strategy, perhaps not one that really worked out too well, as on their way through, the biotic nades were hit multiple times. I think that highlights something that happens on Osh-Tekk's side. Your Diva, their job in that sort of scenario, make sure that the Ana cannot deny any sort of healing or cannot hit that biotic grenade. It didn't happen, and multiple pushes were shut down via that. So I think one thing here, Osh-Tekk, a little bit more timing coordination from their tank line. There's a lot of space coming through where space is just being generated off the back of so much abilities getting through. And if they want to do well moving forward, there has to be a little bit of a tighter cleanup on that particular play, especially. And then, of course, Rialto, a case where you're playing a composition, you're just unable to really find any entryway, and it's very, very difficult. So I think across the board, Osh-Tekk, they have a lot of work to do. Though mechanically, I think they are on. They deserve to be here. It's just now, can they actually, clean up their play to cement their place moving through trials?
Absolutely. I mean, we've been a little bit critical about Osh-Tekk's composition choices. In fact, one thing that you said was one of these teams is playing an EU comp and the other one is playing the correct comp. I mean, you're from NA, so of course that would be something that you would maybe complain about the EU a little bit on. But one thing that you did seem to be a bit happier with coming out of Osh-Tekk was when they came out with Sombra with their tank-heavy composition on their Rialto attack. Do you think maybe this is a sneak peek into Osh-Tekk maybe becoming a little bit better at choosing better compositions, and what should they've done differently to ensure that that actually worked?
Full disclosure on the NA side of things, compositions are slightly different here in terms of what we've been seeing recently. So tanks are not what I'm familiar with. That said, Osh-Tekk had moments of life throughout the series where they do actually start to change up what they're playing. They show that they understand their rotational timings. It's not like they're just picking those comps because that's what they're seeing. So I don't want to ever throw that one out there. Osh-Tekk do know what they're doing when they pick those compositions. They're just not nearly as good at them as British Hurricane were throughout this particular series. So yes, I want to see more from Osh-Tekk in understanding what is being changed in the current meta in terms of understanding what really is what we're being played. Because when we're playing, sort of the, a 3-3 comp, which has come under derision because it is pretty much what is described as a brainless comp. You just press W. It is still very difficult to make it work when the enemy team is playing something that just shuts you down completely, which can happen. I mean, British Hurricane did that on Lighthouse, on Ilios, and then again on Hollywood. Osh-Tekk on Hanamura were finally showing that they can actually change and swap, and I want them to keep doing that. I want them to keep, improving on that, because that is going to be the difference between the teams that are at the top of at the end of Season 3 trials and at the bottom. Like, you're just not going to be able to run goats throughout the entirety of the series.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been somewhat of a confidence boost for British Hurricane, I'm sure, and hopefully a learning opportunity for the Osh-Tekk Warriors. But for now, we're going to throw to a break. We'll be right back very soon for Sport Overwatch.